It's not news that Russia has committed itself to be an ally of Burkina Faso and other African countries. As relations with African traditional partners, the West continue to decline, Russia has decided to fill the vacuum, providing military and trade support to African countries. But what is driving this change in partnership, and what does each side have to gain? Since Ibrahim Traoré took over power in 2022, he has steered Burkina Faso from its traditional partners and former colonial master France and chose to partner with Russia. Russia, on its part, has been eager to commit to that partnership by providing military training and equipment to the Burkinabe military to fight against insurgency and insecurity in the country. Recently, during his recent tour in Africa, the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, paid a visit to Burkina Faso and pledged to provide even more Russian military instructors that would train the Burkinabe's military and law enforcement. He also confirmed that Russia will continue to supply military equipment to bolster the country's defense against militant groups, although he didn't specify what equipment will be sent. Speaking at a news conference, Sergei stated that Russian instructors have been working here and their number will increase. We have supplied and will continue to supply military equipment to help strengthen Burkina Faso's defense capability and allow it to eliminate the remaining terrorist groups. He also appreciated the objective and fair position of Burkina Faso on the war in Ukraine. For our part, we are ready to provide our support for the just cause of Africans who are trying to free themselves from neo-colonial influence, he added. From this, we can conclude that Russia is eager to deepen its collaboration with Burkina Faso. The question is why? Well, Russia is trying to deepen its relations with not just Burkina Faso, but also the African continent because of the sanctions imposed by the West, which has made it isolated. By providing military support to the Burkinabe military, Russia hopes to move out of isolation and counter France and Western influence in the country. This move benefits both sides because Russia gains a foothold in the country, while Traoré's government gets access to Russian military support to tackle the insecurity. But will Russia's support help to tackle Burkina Faso's insecurity? Since 2015, Burkina Faso has been plagued by violence and insecurity resulting from the actions of extremist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, which spread across the Sahel region from Mali. For years, the country has faced regular armed clashes between militants and government forces, causing catastrophic consequences for the people of Burkina Faso. Thousands have died and millions have been displaced, leading to a serious humanitarian crisis, with families living in squalid camps lacking food, clean water, and health facilities. All these while, French troops had been in the country, supposedly helping to combat the insecurity. However, research revealed that after the French troops settled in Burkina Faso, the insecurity and jihadist attacks increased steadily until Burkina Faso became tagged as one of the most dangerous countries in Africa to visit. What then was France doing to help the situation? Absolutely nothing. Fed up with the situation and the handling of the crisis by the previous government, Captain Traoré entered the scene, following a coup in 2022, and pledged to rid the country of the insecurity crisis. Prioritizing the need to combat insecurity, Traoré criticized the failure of the French military forces to combat the insurgency, and amidst the growing anti-French sentiment, he took steps to reduce the influence and presence of France in the country. And in January 2023, Traoré terminated the military agreement that allowed France to be in the country and kicked them out. Then he began to seek new non-Western partners, including Russia, Turkey, China, and Iran. Whether Russia will help Burkina Faso tackle the crisis is not clear, but the fact is that it is certainly better than depending on France and the West that have been in the country for years without achieving anything tangible. It's also better because it's based on win-win partnership and mutual benefit. This is why in recent times African countries are beginning to turn towards Russia. The reverse is what African relation with the West has been. Take the Niger-US relationship, for instance. After the Niger coup and French forces were kicked out, the military government of Niger minded its business and did not respond when the US suspended aid and defense cooperation with them. The government of Niger still allowed the defense cooperation between Niger and the United States to continue, though it was suspended by the US government themselves. However, as soon as Niger started discussing military cooperation with Russia, that's when the US decided to have a meeting with the government of Niger on the way forward. Instead of the US focusing on discussing ways its self-imposed suspension could resume, the US decided to add as a condition to its resumption of defense cooperation with Niger, the end of any partnership between Niger and Russia. This is the superiority complex we are talking about. How can you come into someone's country where you are not even helping to solve its problem and demand that if they want you to stay, they have to stop relating to someone who they feel would help them? Does that even make any sense? Nobody tells the United States who to partner with, right? So, who gave them the right to dictate who African countries should partner with? It seems the West forgets that Africa is no longer a continent full of colonies, but a continent filled with sovereign and independent African countries. Now, just like Niger and Burkina Faso, the island nation of Mauritius recently joined the growing list of African countries willing to ignore the West and partner with Russia. In April, the Mauritian ambassador to Russia, Keswar Janki, took part in the African International Congress, AIC, held in Moscow from April 5th to 6th, where he shared his view on how Africa should react to shifts in the global economic structure and called for the establishment of a new world order. After the meeting, the ambassador revealed to the media how Russia's efforts have contributed to the growth of his country's economy. He noted that in light of the rapidly changing global landscape, Russia has grown in prominence as a player for the small island country. The fact is that the West's superiority complex and attitude of always wanting to step beyond their limit is one of the reasons why Africa is choosing to ignore the West and choose Russia and China as reliable partners. For decades, the preferred partners of the African continent have been the West, but what have African countries got to show for it? Since the world has grown so interconnected that it's not possible for the African continent to shut down partnerships with any foreign country and choose to develop by itself, the best thing is to look for other partners that would work with them on equal footing. The interesting thing is that Russia doesn't care that African countries are partnering with the West. And contrary to what the media would make you believe, Russia is just trying to remove itself from an isolation caused by the sanctions imposed by the West. In fact, Russia through BRICS is pushing for a multipolar world where every country's opinion matters and every country is involved in global issues. Instead of the world we live in right now, where only the US and its allies decide on global issues and can punish anyone that stands in its way. Interestingly, in their superiority and arrogance, the West believes that the reason why Africa is choosing Russia as its preferred partners is because Russia influenced them through disinformation campaigns. If you go through articles in Western media talking about this issue, you will see that it's said that Russia has been spreading false news about the West to turn the minds of African countries against the West. First of all, this is an insult to Africans, because it would mean that the African people are so dumb that they are easily influenced and can't decide for themselves. Secondly, it's highly hypocritical of the West to say such when they do the exact same thing. The West has used the media to turn the narrative of Africa as a continent that needs its help and can't help itself. The West has used the media to change the narrative of African leaders who stood up against them, calling them dictators and human rights abusers. The West has used the media to make the world believe what it wants it to believe. So, if there is anyone who has been sponsoring disinformation campaigns, the West should be at the forefront. The fact is, after the US sanctioned Russia for invading Ukraine, African countries have realized that the West was not a friend and could turn against them whenever it liked. This is why Africa is turning to Russia, and honestly, there is no stopping it. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.